Hello everybody and welcome back to Full Throttle Drive. My name is Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. So we're going to talk today a little bit about the C8 Corvette, and it's been a great last couple of weeks for the C8 mid-engine Corvette because we've had a ton of leaked information. Of course, a few weeks ago we had the leaked options list on the upcoming Corvette, which is really neat. An individual somehow tried to order one and leaked that option list, and then on top of that, the new instrument cluster, the digital display that we have for the upcoming C8 Corvette, we got those leaked images. So we're getting a really good idea of what the new Corvette is going to look like internally as well as the external look from some really cool CAD drawings. But today I want to talk about the transmission. So as many of you guys are already aware, the new upcoming Corvette for the first time ever is not going to come with a manual transmission. We've never seen that ever, and there's a lot of reasons why. I made a video a while back talking about that, and I'm not going to get into all of them, but of course a lot comes to speed, how fast the shifts are taken, making it much more competitive, especially on the track, as well as a straight line drag race. And so for those reasons, we are not going to get a manual transmission at the beginning of the debut launch. However, we are aware that there is some sort of patent pending out there for a clutch-by-wire system, and essentially what that means is we could see on a different variation, possibly the Z06 or the ZR1 variation of the new C8 Corvette, a manual transmission, which would be really cool. Now, I was really hoping to be able to order my upcoming C8 Corvette with a manual transmission, but I'm gonna have to settle for a dual clutch transmission. Nevertheless, I think it's going to be a great transmission. I think that the upcoming Corvette is gonna be spectacular. Now, what I wanna talk about today is what type of transmission could possibly be used. I got this theory and all of this great information from the Mid Engine Corvette forum. It's a great place to be. Some great guys over there with a wealth of knowledge on the upcoming C8 Corvette as well as past Corvettes to talk about. So make sure you check that out. I will put a link in the description below. So what this member kind of pointed out was when we saw the newest leaked information for the options, it was an 8-speed transmission, and we know it's going to be a dual clutch, but we thought it would be a 7-speed dual clutch used from the Tremec transmissions, and that made a lot of sense. We've received a lot of leaked information that would actually support that theory, so that's what a lot of people assumed, and a lot of that comes back to the GT500. The new GT500 actually will not come with a manual as well. It's going to have a Tremec 7-speed dual clutch, so this is kind of where we got that theory. But that has all since changed now that we know that the new Corvette is going to house an 8-speed dual clutch. Now, it still could be a Tremec system, and we will get to that, but it opens up the interpretation of what we could see, and this individual notes that it could possibly be a ZF transmission, which is awesome. A ZF transmission is very robust, and all the way back to the single clutch variations, they've always been a very strong transmission to use, and when you have a lot of torque, which Corvettes generally make, that's a great transmission to use. Now, the ZF 7-speed dual clutch transmission, known as the 7DT, was actually used on a lot of Porsches, and one of the most famous Porsches of them all that used it was the 918 Hypercar, and this is where it would be really cool if the upcoming Corvette actually shared a little bit of DNA with a Hypercar. Now, obviously, as we just said, the 7-speed dual clutch from ZF will not be used because we know it's going to be an 8-speed. However, not long ago, ZF actually introduced an 8-speed. It's a new variation of their 7-speed, just being an extra gear, and that 8-speed, the 8DT, is being used going forward, but it has all of the similar traits of the previous transmission. It's just been reworked, and what we know is that that particular transmission is good for over 750 pound-feet of torque. So this would mean that the new Corvette, at least the base and possibly the Z06 variation, would be able to use this transmission before it would have to be reworked. Now, there were two reasons why it was listed that this new ZF 8-speed could possibly be found on the upcoming C8 Corvette. The first being that I want to show a picture, and this is the housing of where the 918 transmission sits. Now the second picture you're going to see is actually a CAD drawing, and what you will note is a very similar look. You will see that the housings look almost identical to each other. So it could make sense that we are seeing a ZF engineered 8-speed dual clutch transmission sitting in those CAD drawings if Chevrolet is wanting to use that as their dual clutch. And the second reason is that the ZF 8-speed would go very well with a hybrid design layout. Now, what do we know? We know that the highest variation of the upcoming C8 Corvette supposedly is going to be some sort of hybrid design Corvette making 1,000 horsepower. It's going to really be a possibly true hypercar, and that is really cool. And this could make a lot of sense why they would want to go the ZF transmission route, on top of, again, it being a great robust transmission. Obviously this was backed with a lot of support, but in the end it is a lot of speculation, but there's reasoning behind it with the changing from the 7-speed to an 8-speed dual clutch found in the C8 Corvette. But of course we can't completely dismiss the Tremec, and the reason we can't dismiss the Tremec is even though we know that they have a 7-speed dual clutch, at the end of 2016 there was a photo taken of one of their design teams talking about upcoming transmissions, and they were working on 2 dual clutches, and they were both 8 speeds, one being an inline transmission and a transaxle dual clutch. Now, for any of you guys that are not aware, an inline would be used like on a Mustang, a GT500, where the actual engine sits in the front and the rear wheels move, so you have a rear-wheel drive vehicle. A transaxle transmission is where you actually want the engine to sit behind, where the new C8 Corvette configuration will be a mid-engine layout, and then the rear wheels move from there. And those are completely 2 different components, so the fact that Tremec is actually building both of them gives us the indication that they could be housing and getting ready to manufacture the new C8 Corvette transmission. Another really good indication that we may use Tremec on the upcoming C8 Corvette is the fact that they opened up a new manufacturing plant, and that was in Michigan not too long ago. And of course we know that when GM and Chevrolet actually want to outsource parts and don't do them in-house, they want to keep them American. And talk about not much more American than actually having your transmission possibly sourced from Michigan. We do know Tremec also builds in Belgium, but most likely the car would actually have its parts sourced from that Michigan plant. So it's a really cool possibility. Now, my hope is that we have this answered sooner than later. I want to have an idea of what type of transmission is going to be used, whether it be the Tremec or it is the ZF transmission. Both, again, are great possibilities, and I think they prove that the upcoming C8 Corvette is going to be a great car. They're going to put an awesome transmission, and they don't want to fail the consumer by going dual clutch and then failing with that transmission. Whatever they source, it's going to have great potential. So guys, what are your thoughts on the upcoming transmission that could be found in the C8 Corvette? Would you rather see a ZF transmission that's dual clutch or a Tremec transmission? Again, the new GT500 is going to have their 7-speed inline dual clutch transmission, but we definitely could see a ZF transmission, but most likely, and in my honest opinion, it'll probably be the Tremec, just the new 8-speed. And like I said, I think both are going to be great contenders. So leave me all of your comments below. I love conversing with you guys, and I truly appreciate all of your awesome support. And thank you for kind of entertaining this fun video. I know it's a lot of speculation, but until we actually get the raw data, the raw information when the car debuts, hopefully this summer on the upcoming C8 Corvette, it's kind of fun to see what types of bits we can figure out from the leaked information and make, I would say, decent educated guesses going forward. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already. We would absolutely love to have you join our community. And as always, you take care. We'll see you next video.